This video will be a lot more different than my usual videos that I would upload on this channel. See me sort of discussing everything about Pixel 3D, or I guess Pixel 3D in general. But as of recently, I've been thinking about these four topics that I had in mind. So I guess we'll just start off with this statement here. You've probably seen this statement from the first video I made talking about Pixel 2, being a response from one of the community managers, answering a question with it being about why couldn't you just fix the current game. Being a response by Nuka being if we could bring everything we imagined to Pixel 3D, it would already be a completely different game. That's why we're building a new game, that being Pixel 2, while continuing to support the original. Now the one thing that caught my attention as of recently being that one sentence of the statement. Now you could probably interpret that sentence a few ways. In my mind, I would think that if they were to add the features that they had planned for Pixel 3D, it would pretty much change up the game to where it is now. Which there is both positive and a negative towards this statement. The positive in favor for the developers being that they want to sort of keep the game to where it is now instead of having it to sort of change. Counter argument here is that, Pixel 3 has sort of changed over the years, in which both like the UI, the gameplay, clans, weapons, all the other stuff you can probably think of. The one negative I can probably see with this statement, in my opinion, being that they're sort of limiting themselves from having the game to sort of innovate or improve. Those features that they probably had planned for Pixel 3 would probably do is have the game to evolve. Even if the developers already add those changes or additions, and with them saying that it will make the game completely different, there's nothing wrong with that. Probably those planned additions to sort of change up the game, at the end of the day, it's still going to be the same game. And hey, even if those planned features for the game were to quote-unquote make the game completely different, if you can look at it deeply, you can see that it can change but also improve the game in general. Especially since, there's not really much has been added into the game for, months. I think the last additions we had was with the enemy or teammate health, as well as the damage indicator. I'm pretty sure it was added back in November of last year, which was 8 months if you think about it. In terms of changes, there's been a few at the start of this season. Probably some of one of the changes for a micro event being that you can get to just buy rolls for gems. So skip the grind of playing certain matches with to get a roll when you can just buy them. And the last change for the Pixel Pass being that instead of having to do is complete 5 challenges to get the rewards, you have the ability to do is complete a challenge for a reward. This sort of defeats the purpose for the elite rewards that you get from it. Though you do have the ability to do complete an elite challenge to get yourself 300 gems, so at least that's something. I guess that knocks out 2/4 of the things I wanted to talk about. One being about the statement I was talking about, and two being the lack of new features, which I'll probably dive into in this next segment here. This third segment being about, obviously, with Pixel 2. We talked about the reason why, which pretty much takes in with the first segment we talked about. We talked about the disclosure it has with AI, which even if you were to look at it one way or another, it's still a steep slope when it comes to talking about it. We've already talked about the few information that we had regarding it, but I feel we sort of need to dive a little bit more deeper when it comes to, the reception of it. We talked about some of the community's response being that why can't you just fix the current game instead of having to make a new game? And most people would be saying that it would not be able to perform well on release. Probably crammed with more microtransactions as the same way as with Pixel 3D. Which I remember seeing this Reddit post during the time when Pixel 2 was announced, being about already making a second game for players to spend more money on it. Which, that's pretty much the point of making video games. Especially with new entries or sequels. But apart from that Reddit post, you can probably see why most people would probably be saying that. I talked about that in my last video, but for a lot of OGs who used to play this game, or probably is currently to this day, and I guess even for newer players, you just get bombarded with offers by the time you just open the game. There'll be a few instances where a weapon that can be overpowered would be offered. I guess even to this day with event passes where they would offer a lot more better rewards than say for the free play side. With the recent cases of the Silk Road and the owned by Mesmer, which I'm starting to see a trend with these two events having the new content be locked behind event passes, which I hope that's not the case. And obviously this game is a free-to-play game. Free-to-play games need to make some form of money in order to be able to keep the lights open, which is pretty understandable. However, for some free-to-play games, what it tend to do is balance out free-to-play players with players who paid money for stuff. Keep it fair for both sides. For the case of Pixel 3D, obviously what you need to do is balance it. Equalize the game for free-to-play players as well as for paid players. And hey, it might pay out well long-term, because I feel like the developers are sort of focusing on making money short-term wise when you gotta do like focus on it long term. But hey, that's just my thought and suggestion about it. I talked about this in my last video, being that the developers want to do is make the game more free-to-play friendly, players will be satisfied, and it might cause players to reconsider about Pixel 2's release. It all depends on the developers. Can't really do much about it. And I guess the last topic, which I'm pretty glad to delay this video, being about the Ruby division. We already know it's going to be released in June. Aside from the few teasers of the weapons as well as the avatars, this hasn't been a confirmed date. Well, I thought that the Ruby division would be released in the second half of June. As I'm doing this video on a Tuesday, I thought it was going to be released on a Tuesday. But yesterday, which would be on a Tuesday by the time I release this video, it was announced that the Ruby division was set to release at the end of June. I'm honestly not surprised about the release for the Ruby division. But we're finally getting a division after 2.5 years since the Crystal division was released. It is expected that a patch for this week would be released on a Wednesday, and there will be one final patch for the end of the season. So continue stacking up on silver for the Ruby division. And I guess that's all for this video. If you made it this far, I appreciate you guys for watching. Just gonna keep this video short and simple. If you guys have your opinions about the first section of this video, let me know in the comments down below. And if you guys want to see these type of short videos, let me know in the comments down below. But anyways, that's gonna do it for this video. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching. And as always, have a good day, night, or whenever you're watching this video. I'll see you guys in the next video.